Hundreds of Nebraskans were in Lincoln today to testify on the Let Them Grow Act.
It would ban physicians from performing gender-altering procedures for anyone under the age of 19. Channel 8's Mackenzie Johnson joins us here in the studio. She was at the hearings today and has more on our top story. Mackenzie.
LB 574 was introduced by Senator Kathleen-Kauth. It's among the most controversial bills of the session. Physicians, parents, and those who have transitioned testified today on both sides of the bill.
The truth is that medical transition is experimental, it's dangerous, and it doesn't cure anything.
The Let Them Grow Act would prohibit anyone under the age of 19 from having gender-altering procedures, which includes surgery and drugs. The bill was introduced by Senator Kathleen-Kauth, and it drew a large crowd for a public hearing in front of the Health and Human Services Committee on Wednesday. Supporters of LB 574 say children are too young to understand the irreversible medical decisions.
Never before in history have so many young people been rushed to hormone blockers, chest binders, and double mastectomies as they are now. Children are not an experiment, nor will we allow them to become lifelong pharmaceutical dependents.
But those in opposition of the bill say the decision is best left with families and doctors. They say suicide attempt rates in transgender youth are already high, and denying gender-affirming healthcare will cause the numbers to increase further.
I'm not exaggerating when I say that gender-affirming healthcare helps save lives. The fact that anyone could look at my baby brother and think he deserves anything less than the basic human right to access healthcare that supports his needs absolutely breaks my heart.
Those in support also say the gender-altering procedures are too experimental. Instead, they say family support and time to consider options is better for long-term health.
Instead of flooding children's bodies with puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and mutilating their bodies, let's focus on providing better mental health care.
Supporters of the Let Them Grow Act say society presses beliefs onto young kids, making them question their gender identity. But a mother in opposition of the bill testified about her experience with her own transgender daughter.
If anyone's forcing anything upon her, it's anyone who endorses this bill. By denying her medical care, they'd be forcing their ideals and their desires upon my child. It's not any legislator's job to tell my children's doctor that she can't have health care. Please don't threaten her existence in legislative bills, and if it makes you feel any better, neither myself nor my daughter have ever considered surgery for her as a minor, but it's absolutely nobody else's business anyway.
The committee only heard testimony on the bill today, but they could discuss and vote on it as early as next week. We'll keep you updated on its progress on air and online at klkntv.com.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you for that report. Before the hearing, members of ACLU Nebraska and Out Nebraska held a rally this afternoon at the Capitol Rotunda in protest.
Hundreds of people gathered to show support for the trans community as they feel the Let Them Grow Act is targeting trans youth. Doctors, clergy members, business CEOs, and many more were at the rally. During the hearing, some doctors testified that gender-affirming care would harm kids, and there were other doctors who disagreed with that.
Gender-affirming care is important to me because it's the standard of care. I follow evidence-based guidelines, whether I'm treating diabetes, whether I'm treating heart disease, when I was treating pneumonia in the hospital, when we're doing well child exams and making sure kids are meeting their milestones, and this is no different. This is based on science. We have the data that it helps children and it helps their families, and it leads to happier, healthier adults.
Some clergy members are also encouraging Nebraskans to love one another the way Jesus loved them, regardless of their identities. The topic of how our police question minors in Nebraska came up in a hearing today.
Senator John Kavanaugh wants to prevent police from lying to kids during an interrogation. Supporters of the bill say kids are much more likely to offer false confessions, and they're not likely to know their rights.
We all want justice, but wrongful convictions are not justice. Lying is not a good way to find the truth.
This is a question before this legislature about whether we want to have our law enforcement lying to kids to get to answers.
There is currently no law that requires an adult in the room while a minor is being questioned. Opponents say police are trained to use tactics like this only as a last resort. Healthcare officials say they're having troubles getting patients from one facility to another here in the state.
The Nebraska Hospital Association says there have been delays when getting people to those aftercare facilities like nursing homes. The wait can last months, and it holds up hospital beds for those in need.
And it's reaching the point of a crisis, impacting hundreds of Nebraskans every single month. Our hospitals report that at any given time, there are over 220 patients sitting in a hospital waiting to be discharged.
COVID, inflation, and the rise in facilities closing have just made things worse. Lawmakers hope to help this session by creating more grants for nursing homes and expanding care options for Medicaid recipients. The Nebraska History Museum in Lincoln unveiled a new exhibit today.
It's called The American Democracy, a Great Leap of Faith. There was a nice ribbon cutting. It really takes a closer look at the history of American politics dating back all the way to 1776. It also has artifacts, political posters and buttons, even board games on display. The museum's CEO hopes the exhibit will get people to think more about our nation's democracy.
I hope that people will take a moment to think about the philosophical underpinnings of our nation and that it'll be a chance to think big thoughts.
Dolberg says this will not be the only Smithsonian exhibit Nebraskans can see. Another one called Righting a Wrong, which is about the Japanese internment camps during World War II. It's going to be coming to Nebraska History Museum on April 22nd. All right, some crime news now. The Lancaster County Sheriff's Office says a man is in custody after a standoff.
The sheriff says it began around 8 a.m. this morning near 58th and Holdridge. Here's how the scene sounded when our crews arrived. Deputies were serving 7 different warrants for this man, 37-year-old David Barrett, out of Gage County. Authorities at the scene say Barrett locked himself in a camper at a nearby residence, and that's when things heated up.
Fugitive task force members made contact at the camper and was greeted by a male that said that he wanted to, that he had a gun and that he was going to shoot law enforcement officers.
Sheriff Wagner later confirmed Barrett did not have a gun. He was taken into custody about 30 minutes after they were negotiating. The area was blocked off during that time, and thankfully no one was hurt.
Let's check in with Rusty now. Was today, if I remember you saying earlier, day 5 of being over 50 or above for temperatures?
Yeah, in Lincoln. Just a small corner of southeastern Nebraska got into the 50s today. Just about everybody else across Nebraska was 30s and 40s, but we are now seeing some light precipitation trying to move into portions of southeast Nebraska, and it's kind of a rain-snow mix if it's getting to the ground. A lot of this is aloft and trying to make it through a layer of dry air, but having a tough time doing it. But spots like Johnson, Pawnee, Nemaha, Richardson County might be seeing a sprinkle or a snowflake or two, but that would be about it. Here's what we are looking at a little bit closer. You can see that's trying to change over to a rain-snow mix just east of Beatrice. But outside in Lincoln right now, just a nice night, but things are going to get windy on us as we head through tonight. Temperature-wise, we're doing okay. Between 30 and 40 degrees, still 40 in Nebraska City, 38 in Lincoln, but just about everybody in the upper 20s, lower and middle 30s. The wind is starting to increase west from west to east, and it's going to get windy as we head through the overnight. Now, temperature-wise, we'll be in the upper 30s by tomorrow afternoon, but the wind gusts will be in the upper 20s, lower and middle 30-mile-per-hour range as we head through the day tomorrow. And some spots could see 40 to 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts as well. So we'll talk more about the wind and the temperatures in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Rusty. UNL is celebrating the 15th anniversary of a safe place located on campus.
A banquet was held today, and former students, faculty, and friends gathered to share their stories and connect with fellow alums. Channel 8's Philip Katafamo went to the celebration, and he's here in studio to tell us more about the event. Philip?
For 15 years, UNL's LGBTQA+ Center has been a safe gathering place where people and allies can feel safe in their identities and create a sense of belonging together.
Having a visible space makes a huge difference for people.
Since opening in 2007, the Nebraska Union, UNL's LGBTQA+ Center, has been a safe space for LGBTQA+ students and allies to connect in a safe space. Wednesday evening, alumni, staff, and students gathered in the WIC Alumni Center to celebrate the center's 15th year. Director Pat Tetreault joined the university in 1992 as the Sexuality Education Coordinator. In this role, she, the campus committee on GLBT concerns, and student activists work together to advocate for improved programming, services, and resources for the LGBTQA+ community.
That group of people worked to try to get an actual person whose job it was to work with LGBTQA+ students. And so over time, as a member of that committee and often being in a leadership role, I brought safe space ally cards to campus. As the committee and out of my programming, we did a variety of types of programming.
In 2010, the center outgrew its old location and moved to a 3-room suite. 2 years later, the center expanded again, moving to its current location, allowing students like Austin Christensen, who graduated from UNL in 2017, a place to meet like-minded individuals and feel accepted.
It was like the first time that I could actually feel like validated in who I was and my sexuality. I actually hadn't met really anyone like me. I know we're all out there. It's just, you know, when you're coming from small town Nebraska, it's hard to have that community. So coming to the center was getting that community for me.
Or 2019 graduate Lauren Falconer, who interned with the center as a student and has turned her experiences into a career with local nonprofit organizations such as Out Nebraska.
It gave me confidence in the work that I was doing because I know how important it was to me as a student, and to have organizations and centers like the Resource Center growing up, it was just so important, and it felt good knowing that I could help do the same thing for other people like me.
Director Tetreault says the center will expand its footprint again, moving the director's office to room 345 and moving the Lavender Closet, a resource that provides free gender-affirming clothing and accessories to students, into the center. Back to you.
Philip Katafamo, thank you very much for that story tonight. Still to come on our newscast here, the president called out Republicans for wanting to cut Medicare and Social Security last night.
Is that really what they want?